Hey everybody, this is John for the Young Turks, and I am starting off what is going to be 3 hours of live reactions to the CNN town halls that are going to be happening. They're doing 3 hours. Each hour is going to be a different candidate. We're also going to have live reactions from a different person. So first up is John Delaney, former congressman. I'm going to be covering that one over the course of the next hour. I'm watching right now to see, and it should go live at any point now. After that is going to be Tulsi Gabbard, and then Buttigieg, who we're all going to get a chance to meet for perhaps for the first time, is going to be coming up an hour after that. And along the way, Malcolm Fleshner and then Brett Ehrlich are going to be doing live reactions. I'm going to give you a little bit of a preview in just a second. I wanted to let you know, in case you haven't been following our announcement videos about this, how this is going to run. This is intended to be sort of a two-screen experience. We're not going to be playing the video or the audio for the actual town hall. You're going to have that on your own. I'm going to be watching that on a separate screen and doing live coverage. So if you want to, you can turn up the live reactions. You can also turn it down and come back at another point. I will say it's always a tenuous balancing act to know how much coverage to how much commentary to give and how much to let the person speak. I am, to the extent that I can, going to allow them to speak as much as possible. Obviously, during the breaks, I'm going to be reacting, and if I have a point, I'm going to be making it as concisely as I can to make sure that I don't talk over the candidate too much. But if they say something crazy, I am going to have to respond. That is, after all, the entire point. And I'm going to be doing just a little bit of wrap up right afterward, after the hour's over for a few minutes. I don't want to go into Malcolm and Brett's time at all, if possible. So we're watching. They haven't yet gone live. I've got them muted for now. They're just doing like preview coverage. But I do want to give you a little bit of information about the next 3 hours. So it is pretty obvious, I think, that CNN is rating their chances a little bit lower than some of the others, or certainly their importance in the primary. They are, after all, cramming 3 town halls into one weekend night, as opposed to many of the others. We've had Bernie Sanders, they gave Howard Schultz. I think Gillibrand had one, and Kamala Harris as well had like primetime weeknight town halls. I'm assuming that they're looking at the polling and they're rating it off of that. So in terms of the stakes, right now I just looked at the most recent polling from Morning Consult, and overall in the Democratic primary field, John Delaney is at 0%, and the other two candidates, Gabbard and Buttigieg, who are going to have their town halls a little bit later on, are at 1%. Now, when you rank it, when you just talk to people who are in the early voting primary states, they are all at 0%. So all of them have lower name recognition. They have a lot to potentially gain if they have a good performance. Now, John Delaney is, in terms of how he is staking out his run, I doubt he is trying to appeal to something like me and perhaps some people like you. He is very much trying to portray himself as the centrist. Yes, Tulsi Gabbard, I'm responding to Blaster Master. Tulsi Gabbard has the next one, actually. But this is like their big nationwide attempt to get people excited about their candidacy. So we're going to be seeing how that goes. Let me check in here. Okay, so they're saying that the crowd are Democratic primary voters. And now you see John Delaney is coming out. There might be some delay or lag. I'll try to have my answers make sense in the context of a possible lag. He'd been a congressman for 6 years. He did not run for re-election last year so that he could focus on his presidential run. Okay, so he's been listening. We'll see what he has learned. I went there. Okay, this is important. There's not a link, but it's on CNN Live right now. It's not how you try to appeal to that audience. If he's not going to answer the question, he could at least stop so that we could cut in. Okay, I think I see where this is going. So, I don't think that this is the answer that that student is looking for. The question was, how are you going to appeal to more progressive voters? And he is just reiterating why he is running as a very pro-capitalist moderate. Yeah, I mean, he's running with the same talking points as Fox News right now. Look, we have a long primary. There's going to be a lot of debates, but just right off the bat, the answer to these first two questions, I mean, how do you really think that you're going to stand out in a field of 20 plus candidates by saying that we should be scared of moving in a direction in the primary when that is like the people who are doing the best are either genuinely progressives right now or are doing as much as they can to portray themselves in that way. And if he's going to try to run as a moderate, he's going to run up against a number of other more senior senator moderates who are probably going to outraise him. Guys, if you want to watch the broadcast, it's on CNN. That's as much as I can tell you. Okay. CNN's website also has a live feed of this. So this isn't the direction I would go in on this, but they do at least, he does actually have a plan. You can look it up and see. And I could see it being popular, at least with the health insurance executives, because to a large extent, it doesn't structurally change much of anything. It sort of works around the edges. I saw a comment about us not covering certain candidates. Just to be clear, while we cover the news that all candidates generate, we have invitations out to literally everyone running for president. If they don't come on our platform, that's because they're choosing not to do that. But we will try to cover as much as we can of all of the developments of the different candidates. I don't know if that's going to satisfy her. It's not a terrific question. I care far more about what he would do as president on this issue than how he has personally renovated his home. He is saying that after every question, but they all do that. Really fast, just he's answering the question about climate change, and I'm glad that he is talking about it, but this is, considering the conversation we've been having nationally for the past few months, this is the most pro-capitalist, capitalism-focused response to climate change that I've seen from any of those running for president. By the way, walk the talk is not an expression. Keep saying that. Ken, I agree. Things that can get done, code for I won't do it in a lot of cases with politicians. I hate this answer. Oh, this is the question he wants about unifying. What does that mean? Swearing never to divide. Okay, the president debating the Congress is an interesting idea. It seems like a gimmick, but that is interesting. The live stream is available on CNN. They should have a live button somewhere on their page. And just make sure that you're live, and it should minimize the delay between us. That is a good idea in 1992. Just out of curiosity, we're one quarter into this thing. If you are more likely to vote for him based on what you've seen so far, just comment a thumbs up, and we'll see. I'm talking because this bores me. Yeah, I saw someone mention Andrew Yang. I interviewed him on the Damage Report. He should have a CNN town hall. I don't see any thumbs up yet. Oh, Ken, thumbs up. I didn't even ask for the thumbs down, but I'm seeing them. They do those meetings already. I could see this being popular to some extent in some cities, I guess. But in what is going to be an incredibly hard-fought Democratic primary, for a guy who's been running for 2 years, this is an interesting strategy. Oh, they do have a break. Okay, I'm gonna massively turn this down for a second. Okay, thank you to everybody who's tuning in so far. Hopefully, many of you have been able to find the CNN stream. It's available on their website. You can log in with your TV account for whatever provider you have. If you don't have that, you can watch at least 10 minutes. But if you use different browsers and incognito mode, I'm sure you can watch the entire thing. It shouldn't be a big issue. There might be a bit of a delay, but I'll try to identify what I'm responding to when I'm responding to a question. So we're a quarter of, actually about a third of the way through this. Remember, after this hour, There's going to be a Representative Gabbard, and then Buttigieg is going to have the third hour with different people commenting on each one. So, as I'm mentioning this, everybody comment your impressions so far. I will say that I didn't enter into it with very high expectations. I made clear at the beginning that I know what his thing is as a candidate. He wants to present himself as going down what he calls the middle road, which, again, look, if you go to past Democratic primaries, if you go back, 8 years, 12 years, 20 years, that's a popular strategy, and it has resulted in some people doing quite well, if not winning the primary. But there's just so much competition right this time around that is going to be a very difficult middle road to walk. I mean, there's a number of actual progressives already running. There's a number of people who I would call the new progressives, people pitching themselves as progressives without sort of the long track record that we could really see how authentic it actually is, but that's what they're saying they are. And then there's a couple of already, there are moderates, both running as Democrats and running as independents already. So he's entering into, it's not really an alternative path to like Bernie or to Biden. It's kind of also crammed. So in terms of his ability to differentiate himself at least from others like maybe Klobuchar or Howard Schultz, he's giving sort of similar, just generically bipartisan, pro-corporate answers to a lot of these questions. When he was asked specifically, how are you going to appeal to young progressives or people who are interested in socialism or democratic socialism, he gave a very generic, I'm a centrist who doesn't have big issues with the current level of corporate power in Washington. Then when he was asked to double down on that, so asking, what do you think about the direction of the Democratic Party, he attacked socialism in its pure form in the same way that I would expect Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity to on an episode of their show. Again, there might be 10, 20, 30% of the Democratic primary electorate that would find that appealing. I'm sure there are some people that think that it's moving in the wrong direction, but I don't know that that's necessarily going to give him the plurality, let alone the majority, in these early states. And again, for those of you who were here before the actual live stream started, you might have already heard this. For those who haven't, in terms of the stakes, all three of the town halls that we're having tonight are for candidates that are, as of right now, not polling particularly well, generally because they have very low name recognition. There's going to be a lot of opportunities to raise that. You're going to have, obviously, town halls and then the real debates, and then you have put forward some bold ideas and get us to cover it. That's one of the reasons we've been talking about Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren especially, who's had a ton of great ideas recently. And then people who aren't even running, like Ro Khanna and AOC. I mean, they're the ones who are driving conversation about a wealth of different policy areas. So for John Delaney, he's at 0% in the most recent Morning Consult poll. And not surprisingly, in the early primary states, he's also at 0%. So you have to work hard to differentiate yourself, or to say something that is going to cause people to second guess who they might already be supporting. There's a lot of people that still have very open minds, but a significant chunk already are supporting one or another candidates. There's a lot of really popular politicians that are already running, and I don't see it. I get that I live in a bubble. I come from a particular perspective. I already have a couple of candidates that I'm likely to support if they end up being the one. But I think that he's going to have to do more than he's doing right now. So we're getting back into the stream right now. We'll see how he does in the second, third. Texas energy industry guy. I am watching on YouTube TV right now. Okay. I, that's that's generally a fine idea, but that's something that people have been talking about for well over a decade. So, for context, in case there's a delay, he's answering the "How do you make college affordable?" question right now. And I mean, I guess they're fine centrist late 90s ideas, but there's no re-questioning of sort of the orthodoxy of the relationship between the government and higher education and the costs. He would still leave it largely hands off. Okay, generally at this point in the questions, he's still going on about that, about the student loan debt. I'm getting bored because he's not really coming up with anything big. Look, the thing is, I do have I have a relatively open mind. I mean, obviously, like I prefer Bernie because he's the best progressive running right now, but I have an open mind. When I interviewed Andrew Yang, I really liked his answers. I'm excited to see him in the debates right now. This is not doing it right now. We're gonna do another thumbs up, thumbs down check in a little bit. Yes, this is still John Delaney for another half hour or so. He's answering a question about AI right now and automation. Jerry, there's two more town halls coming up right after this. Tulsi Gabbard has the next hour, and Buttigieg has an hour after that. So there's three total town halls. There will still be many candidates that CNN will not have yet given a town hall to, but it looks like they have a strategy to give many of them, although not equal. I don't believe Bernie is a hoarder. He just ended with the AI one. Daniel, I hope that they will. I mean, I think that Andrew Yang would be more interesting, probably get better ratings than Delaney or Howard Schultz. Oh, is it a terrific question? Hmm. They seem to be. mean, my prediction is he's going to support some form of border fence, but not wall. I'm crossing my fingers on that one, but we'll see. So I know I see some comments, people saying that I should be talking more. Look, I love talking. You know that. I have my own morning show and I do the main show a lot too. But I know some people also don't like it when we talk over all of the answers. So I'm trying to strike a balance. So this sounds like a more centrist, less interesting version of the legalization case that the vast majority of candidates in the primary already are supporting. He's going to get a lot of young votes. A lot of young votes. Hmm. Gamer. Stop asking them their name. You either remember it or you don't. Okay, supports the separation of church and state. Mold. I do not have a black eye. Okay, guys, I apologize. We would be playing the actual stream, except we legally are not allowed to do that. If it is available, then that's good. You can use that. But those channels are likely to get strikes as a result of that. I would be more than glad to split screen it if I could. Yeah, this answer is fine. It's a little bit boring, but it's fine, I guess. He won't rule as a Christian nationalist. That is awesome. That's a good answer. So he says that although he is a Catholic, he's pro-choice, and he does not struggle with it as a matter of public policy. That's a pretty good answer. Questions are okay. There's nothing particularly surprising. Maybe the AII question. That's about it. Hey, he was concise. A natural gas executive. Woo! Buckle up. Hmm. Bear in mind, yes, he has been to every county in Iowa. That is true. But in the early caucus and primary states, he is currently at 0%. So just bear that in mind. It's not destiny or anything, but it merits mentioning. Guys, unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be able to talk about my game collection much in this particular video, but I would be more than happy to do that in the future. I don't know that I can actually raise my volume. I apologize for that. I can talk louder. I can do that. Is this better? some hair. Jesus, my hair is the biggest controversy of the past couple years in American politics. Okay. It's not a Metallica shirt. It's an Amplify shirt for TYT from our Amplify program. So he's answering a question about gerrymandering right now. It would be awesome and incredibly surprising if voting rights, access to, full and fair and unfettered access to American democracy was an actual big issue in this primary. For some reason in American politics it's not, and we just take it for granted that a significant percentage of the population either will not be able to vote if they want to or will not have any interest. And in general, we're just fine with that. We don't do anything about it. I want to run against this guy. I know what most of you are saying. Clearly, John, you're not old enough constitutionally to run, but just barely. Just barely. Okay, wants to be a president will finally end gerrymandering. That is perfectly good. It's it's not shocking anyone or anything like that. Okay, my battery's running low. That's great. And unfortunately, because my microphone is plugged in, I can't actually charge it right now. So I'm gonna go as long as I actually can. Okay, let me quiet this down. So in the second section, I mean, the questions were like things about AI, and look, there was a good question about keeping education costs down low. But again, if you believe that this is a significant problem, which it objectively is, but if you acknowledge that the rising cost of college student loan debt, and all of that is a big problem, then are you going to support the guy that's like, well, we need, a little bit more in terms of subsidies and stuff like that? And yes, he wants to make, universal pre-K. That people are going to like that. Parents are going to love that. But a lot of people have that as part of their platform. Like Bernie was talking about that at his CNN town hall not long ago. I really do think that this is just not the primary for that sort of talk. It has to go bolder than that. Honestly, I mean, look, some people think that Bernie's plan, no debt 4-year public college, like doing that, is not enough. So the idea that you're going to do sort of just like refinancing and new subsidies around the edges of the problem, like there might have been a Democratic primary where that was going to stand out and gain you some support, but I don't think that this is the one. And again, I will say this again, as of right now, he is at 0%, despite the fact that he was the first person to announce. He has been running for 2 years. He's at 0% in those early states that he has spent the last 2 years circling. So he needs to be bold. He needs to give me a reason to be like, you know what? Like I talked with Andrew Yang, and Andrew Yang talked through his universal basic income plan, not to mention all the rest of the stuff, but that as sort of the core of his candidacy, that is exciting, that is interesting, that is something that will change the conversation, that is AOC-ish in that respect. That is what we want. Who is watching this and is thinking, and no offense to John Delaney, I'm sure he's a fine congressman or whatever, but nobody's watching this and thinking, you know what? Screw it. I was for Bernie, but now Delaney. Or, look, whatever, maybe you were for Booker, or you were for Harris, or you're for Biden, and you're like, well, maybe not. Got to think about Delaney now. I just don't see that being a particularly common response to what we've seen. So, let's see. Thumbs up, thumbs down in the comments if this is raising or lowering your chance. I guess you can give a face palm if you have the same exact chance. So let's see some comments there and see what you guys think. Let's see if we get a bit of a stream going. Look. I have a few candidates that I'm most interested in. I totally accept that. I accept that I come at this from a particular perspective, a little bit more biased, I guess, against newer candidates. But I don't know. I mean, I'm seeing some thumbs come in. I saw an up and a down. That's, I guess, a mix, I suppose. Mostly they are down. I doubt those people had very high chances of voting for him anyway. Look, I come at this from the point of view of someone who runs a daily news show. There are a lot of people running. Um, what we end up covering is complex, but I will say that the candidates that I will end up covering are, look, if I am biased in their favor, like if it's Bernie, I am going to be more attentive to the things that Bernie says and does because I've supported him for a long time. I continue to support him. And then it is candidates who put forward bold ideas, legislation, or advocacy. You know, if you go out there and you help striking workers or something, then we're going to cover that. If you have a big, bold bill, we're going to cover that. So, look, a lot of the times recently that has been AOC, Ro Khanna, you know, Green New Deal proposal, things like that. But Warren and Bernie have done a lot of that too. Delaney is not even in elected office now, so he has sort of made it more complex for him in that particular respect to get news coverage, which means he needs to go out there and do something, say something bold. Like, for instance, I thought it was coming back. Beto O'Rourke got a lot of news coverage back during his Senate run because he was out there and he was being unambiguous on the important issues of the day, and that does not seem like something that John Delaney is likely to do. Okay, let's come back in for the third of this. Oh, are they actually done? Okay, yeah. So Buttigieg and Tulsi Gabbard are coming up in the next 2 hours. We're going to be doing live commentary on those as well. Let's see if there's any curveballs in this last third. What's the most long-term damaging consequence of the Trump presidency? I think that that's a very easy question to answer, but that's a good question. I mean, I think it's obviously the judges that he's gotten on. I mean, that's going to be shaping American politics for literally decades. Tulsi is coming up in the next hour. Buttigieg is in the third hour. Okay, this is it's fine. Everybody's going to be saying stuff like this. That's perfectly fine. Fine answer. By the way, I'm just going to cut in because I'm kind of bored by it. So I am doing a rewatch of Game of Thrones in advance of the eighth season, which we are going to be doing live reviews of once the season starts. So if you want to follow me at twitter.com/John Idarola, I'm going to be doing some live tweeting of some of the episodes as I watch them. I'm very much looking forward to TYT coverage of those. Some of it, by the way, is going to be for members only. So if you're not a member yet, maybe try it out. TYT.com/trial. Everything he has said about Trump has been true. Lacks a moral compass. We talked about his compass. I actually have a green screen. I could put up the green screen if you prefer. I like the board games. I'm not just about politics, everybody. I have a life outside of that. It's mostly about games. I do actually Twitch. Sometimes. Rarely. Twitch.com/GamesetJohn. That's a fine question, but talking about the foreign interference as shaking it up, that's a funny framing of it. So now he's answering about protecting elections. Okay, that's fine. He believes him over Putin. I would put that in the context of like he'd already been talking about wanting to stop gerrymandering. Like put it in the context of strengthening and protecting American democracy more generally, you can tie it to other values. Against cyber attacks, that's fine. Also, that would be great outside of the context of just elections as well. By the way, as he's answering these last questions, if you had to vote for today, if you had to vote today in the primary, either for somebody who's currently running or someone who might run, just post who would your number one choice be. Just curious. It's a good question about the opioid crisis. Okay, it looks like Bernie is winning this thing. Maybe marijuana. I feel like virtually nobody talks about the opioid crisis with the level of passion and understanding of how drastic the response needs to be based on the issue and how fast we need to put money into fixing it. Most politicians' response is very much like this is a serious thing that I'm going to put a little bit of money into. That's honestly what it sounds like a lot of the time. And always on the end of the person who has purchased it, never on the companies that are pushing it on them. And in particular, I would be shocked if he were to actually talk about the companies in a serious way. He might. Mm. Somebody asked about past coverage of Delaney's candidacy. I mean, I remember talking about when he launched. I don't know how much we've done in depth about his past. We have a series we've been doing for some time on the Damage Report, breaking down the donors of all the different candidates. But we haven't gotten to John Delaney yet. But we've done that for a lot of candidates already. I would love to find out what she thought about that response about opioids. Okay, I'm hoping that my phone is going to last through the end of this. The end of the stream might come from my phone shutting down, but I'll go as long as I can anyway. And shortly thereafter, Malcolm will be picking it up for the second hour. I can't plug my phone in because the microphone goes into the same thing. It's an ingenious design. I guess I could go microphoneless. paid parental leave, that should just be the, like, every single person running for president this time around should have a comprehensive plan for that. How do we not have that in America? Every major country. Let's see if I can plug this in. The audio might get worse. I apologize. I think that worked. We'll see. We'll see. That's a tough question about double income families. The audio got better. Tell me the audio didn't get better, that I wasted money on this microphone. That's great. Thank you, Rode. That's ridiculous, by the way. If there was wind, I think that this microphone would help. Okay, so he's talking about double income families. Max. Come here, buddy. If you're a tech nerd and you're curious, this is a Pixel 2 with now the standard audio of it. Okay, he did speak out against cutting the tax rates of corporations. That is a good step on the way of advocating for re-raising them to at least where they were before, if not higher. I do have a blue Yeti, but this is going through my phone, not through my computer. Okay, rising cost of living housing. I mean, so right there he's talking about sort of a family-focused agenda of a number of different policies. I could see that being popular for some people, but I also think that there are other candidates who, like, I mean, Klobuchar is going to push a similar sort of thing, and she's going to have much higher name recognition, and she's going to raise more money, and she's going to run on a very similar platform. So it's just, he's in a very difficult position. I don't think they had to ask for 21%. One more question. And by the way, he was a congressman for 6 years, so he has a lot of votes that you can look into. He has a record. What is his catchphrase? You've been running for 2 years. You don't have a catchphrase. This is a ridiculous question, but you should have one. I'm not happy about this. Do you remember when Anderson Cooper back in 2016 asked them what their favorite drink is? We're just a couple minutes out from the end of this. Okay, that's fine. It's not a catchphrase, but this is fine. It is a long catchphrase. What do you mean not the Democratic answer, not the Republican answer? The correct, just that's divisive. No. If you don't think that either side has any advantage on providing an answer to the issues of the country, then run as an independent. In the end, he might want to. Okay, so it sounds like that's going to be it. I'm just going to go for a couple of minutes of final thoughts. By the way, there is going to be a new stream on the Young Turks YouTube channel, which is going to be Malcolm Fleschner covering the next hour, which is Representative Tulsi Gabbard. I am going to make a bold prediction, say that it is going to be more exciting than the hour that we've just spent with John Delaney, former congressman. Look, some of his answers were fine, I guess, but they were... like, if you didn't feel like what some politicians were saying were bold solutions to our country's problems, they just seemed by comparison a lot bolder. His ideas are relatively okay centrist democratic policies of 1998. That is the feeling that I got out of it. He would have gone a couple of months against Al Gore in that primary, I guess. But, and this, remember, he didn't just decide yesterday to start this run for the presidency. He jumped in. He's been running for 2 years, and honestly, I mean, this is what he's got. Now, I have to imagine that if this is what he's got, that it means that this is the result of him and his advisors thinking that there's a viable path based on, like, self-declared moderate centrist, the Democrats are no better than the Republicans campaigning. I don't think that that is going to work. I think that in the end, you're going to have probably Bernie Sanders as the progressive torchbearer, and then you're going to have someone who is going to pitch themselves as a progressive, but is more of a liberal Democrat of the mold of probably a little bit more liberal than Obama or Hillary Clinton, but a similar sort of thing. And that could end up being Biden. I think it's less likely to be Biden than someone like Kamala Harris, perhaps. I think that that's probably where this is going to go. Maybe John Delaney will stick around for a while, and maybe my perspective is like terrible. Yeah, Jim Webb. I mean, that's Lincoln Chafee. Like, do we have to go back through the last time? Let's get one more. Thumbs up, thumbs down. More likely, less likely to vote for him after having seen the first town hall with this guy. I just think that, like, I don't expect that the next Morning Consult poll is going to have him at 10% or even 4%, maybe 2%. You got to understand, there's a lot of people who are being polled right now. There's a lot of people at 0, 1, and 2%. And the thing is, I understand that Bernie Sanders made up a huge gap in the polling in the 2015 to 2016 period. That is totally true. And it is possible that that same thing will happen. But understand that it is going to be more difficult than it was the last time around, because the last time around we started with like 5 candidates and we ended up with 2 relatively quickly, honestly. That's not going to happen this time. There are way more candidates splitting the vote. There's way less time for you individually on the debate stage. Even though they're going to have more debates, it's going to be packed. It's just way harder. So possible. It's possible that John Delaney, he gets 50 points higher in the next 6 months or something. I just think that that's probably unlikely to happen at this point. I'm going to be breaking down some more of his responses in depth. I don't want to go too far over because I know Malcolm's going to be coming up right now, as some of you might have already switched over. In particular, his answers on climate change, I'm going to hopefully break down on the Damage Report tomorrow morning. If you're not already watching the Damage Report on youtube.com/the Damage Report or on YouTube TV or for members, you should be. It's awesome. I love it. But we're going to be talking about his answers on climate change and contrasting it with like the AOC school of pushing the Green New Deal. And we'll see which side I come down on. Anyway, yeah, I would say overall, I don't think that this is going to move the needle. I don't think that John Delaney is going to get like 10 CNN town halls. He needed to pounce on this thing, and I don't think he pounced. I think he kind of crawled. So anyway, like I said, you can switch over to a different stream on the Young Turks YouTube channel that is going to have Representative Tulsi Gabbard with Malcolm Fleshner providing live reactions. An hour after that, Brett Ehrlich is going to be reacting to Buttigieg's town hall. Again, I wouldn't have the highest high hopes there, but I think you're going to like his answers better than you like Delaney's. So I guess we'll end up seeing. I guess I'm on a huge delay. I apologize. Anyway, I'm going to cut out now. Thank you, everybody who's watching. It's awesome to have so many of you being invested on a Sunday afternoon on these town halls. I really do appreciate that. There's a lot more primary to come. So I'm going to keep watching, but I'm not going to be doing commentary. So I will see you guys a little bit later on, once I figure out how to stop this.